Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 1983 film The Deadly Spawn. And shout out to all the people who told me I should see this because it's a so bad it's good film, and it indeed is a so bad it's good film. So if you like those types of films, it's on Shudder right now when I'm doing this review. I recommend it for that reason. So I'll be rating this two ways, as like an actual film in the pantheon of all films, but also as a so bad it's good film. So two ratings at the end. This film is directed by Douglas McKeown, who also did The Watermelon Woman, which looked kind of messed up racially from that standpoint. So I have not seen it. I can't confirm or deny that, but looked like one that I might never see. Written by McKeown and story by Ted A. Bohus, who also wrote Regenerated Man, which sounds fun, Vampire Evictions from Venus, which sounds like porn, This Thing of Ours, and also John Dods was involved in writing the script. There was apparently an unofficial sequel to this film, and it was called Metamorphosis: The Alien Factor. But it was released in Asia, and when it was released there, they billed it as The Deadly Spawn 2: The Metamorphosis, because I guess the original Deadly Spawn did well enough in Asia, so they wanted to cash in on that name recognition. Reportedly, Paramount almost picked this film up for theatrical release. Can you imagine what that would have been like? Quite interesting. I mean, I'm just astounded that they almost picked it up, just because it is garbage. Like, it is garbage. Like, even for back in 1983, like, it's not a good film. Like, the acting is terrible, obviously. The writing is terrible, obviously. It's kind of slow in how it's moving. The only thing that's like a huge plus for this film, I will say, and one of the things that endears it to me most, the practical effects are cool. Like, the creatures, the spawn, I'm just going to call them creatures for this, but the spawn slash creatures in this look cool. They look good. I mean, you can tell they put a good amount of work into that, and they feature them quite a bit in the film, which is the strongest thing about the film. That was a good choice. All right, so getting in the actual film events, meteor falls from the sky, and two dudes go to check it out. We've all seen this too many times in a film, and it never, ever, ever goes well. So obviously, that's what ends up happening here. Now, it's interesting to note that this is kind of like, I think, the only time in the film we're not inside the house where the spawn or the creature gets into the basement. Like, the almost entirety of the film takes place in that house. It's just in this beginning, when the actual meteor falls and these guys find it, is when we're not in this house. So it was probably pretty low budget because they had one shooting location. That probably made it pretty easy for scouting locations and stuff like that. Just saying. I really dig the shadow puppetry that they did in the beginning with the creature. They did it a few times in the film, actually, but initially it does look really cool. Like, the tent of the guys who get killed, who find the meteor. Like, you just see like the shadow of this creature, and it looked cool. It looked cool. And at that point, I was like, oh, this is so bad it's good film. When we actually see the creature, it's probably not going to look that great. But it actually did. It looked pretty good. I was very impressed with how good that looked. You can tell that they put all the effort into that, and not really much else or much of any other effort into the other stuff. The keyboard music in the film is something else. I don't remember if it was much past the beginning of the film, but that keyboard music was very much of its time. It really transported me back, and it just adds to the, like, so bad it's good charm, in my opinion. So I like that about it. You get the idea, I'm sorry, I keep laughing, just like remembering this film. It's something. You get the idea early on that this film is really going to take its time with every scene to stretch the runtime. And it is like, I think it's like an hour and 21 minutes or something like that. So it's not even an hour and a half. And all the scenes, almost all the scenes, are just like so belabored. Like, they just go on way too long. And you can just get this feeling that they were really trying to stretch it to be able to categorize this as an actual feature-length film, when actually it could make a pretty awesome short film, to be honest, especially with the creatures looking the way they did with the practical effects. I'm just saying. Someone get on that. Make The Deadly Spawn remake, but it's just a short film. Do it. Good amount of blood used in Sam's death in the basement. I enjoyed that. I mean, good amount of blood used in this film in general. They were throwing that fake blood all over the place, which is great. I'm all in for that. And the practical effects with the kills was also not what I was expecting. It was a lot better, especially the scene where the mother's face is just being like torn apart by like the little baby creatures. Pretty impressed with that. Just like the design of the creatures themselves. Impressed with the face being eaten and ripped off. I loved it. I loved that aspect of it. And I think that's the reason that like if that stuff wasn't in the film, if the creatures didn't look the way they did and the kills weren't the way they were and the gore wasn't the way it was, I would just not even think about watching this again. But it brings enjoyment to the film with that stuff. The full-on reveal of the creature is pretty solid, especially with the flesh being ripped off the woman's face. Yes, that's what I was just referencing being very impressive. So it's this cool moment where like they give you the full reveal of the creature, and then immediately after that, pretty much they're showing you like this her face being ripped apart, which is like impressive and then impressive again. So it does kind of hit you in a good way when you're thinking, oh man, this is just gonna suck. Note how much Aunt Millie blinks when she talks to Charles about if he's coming to breakfast, when he's dressed in his kind of like Frankenstein costume, and she asks if he's going to wear that to breakfast, which, by the way, it seems a little weird that like the aunt and uncle just start like taking over the house like they're the parents in a sense. Like I was confused at first and I was just like, oh, they're the parents because of the way they were acting. And they just seem to be like, oh, you know, the people we're visiting aren't here. Okay, except they're kids. It's just very odd, but yeah. But notice how much she blinks in that scene when she's looking at the camera and supposed to be looking at Charles. I like how when Charles goes into the basement, he doesn't seem concerned at all by all the blood that he ends up seeing in the place. In general, though, Charles doesn't seem very concerned in this film at all. He doesn't even seem all that concerned when he's standing there looking at the dead bodies of his parents and watching these small creatures tear the flesh off his mother's face. I believe her head was severed at that point, by the way. I do like how it kind of like rolls into the scene and then they're like, but like, what's with this character of Charles? Like, nothing phases him. I mean, I guess you could kind of write it off as like he's trying to be as quiet as possible because he notices that these creatures don't have eyes. So he doesn't want to like give up his location because he wants to stay, you know, he wants to stay safe. But how are you going to control that type of emotion when you see that your parents have just been murdered and you see this very grisly scene in front of you? Because it's a So Bad It's Good film. That's just why. You have to love all the practical effects during Charles's encounter with the creature in the basement. The creature babies, the severed head, the ripping of the flesh off the severed head. I mean, impressive. You know, like it hits you and redeems the movie right then, and then just makes you forgive that it's crappy right then. And then from then on, you're just like, I feel, or at least I am. I'm like, I feel like I got what I needed out of this already. But I'll keep going with it, and I did. I like how Ellen says the baby creature she found reminds her of a coelacanth. I've seen a coelacanth in person. It's, you know, not alive, preserved at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. Very impressive looking creatures, very large. Didn't see the relation there at all. Could have said something else, you know? I don't know. I will say the babies kind of looked a bit like the baby spawn from Alien, like after the facehuggers happen, like when the chest bursters is what it looks like, basically. Looks more like that. And why is Charles still standing there watching his mother's face be dismantled? Already talked about that, but why? I must ask this question again. Why is he just standing there? As the film progresses, you get the idea they won't be leaving the house for any of the scenes. And yeah, for the most part, like I said, they don't. It was that initial scene with the meteor falling to Earth, and then we're at this house forever. It's like reminder of COVID times at this point where I was just like, yes, I remember never leaving the house. Like this film, we're never leaving the house. Man, Pete is really trying to move in on Ellen, even though it seems Frankie is with her. What a great friend. Yeah, It's weird though because they kind of dropped that then. Like they were angling like, "Ooh, Pete's trying to get with Ellen, but there's maybe a little bit of drama because Ellen's potentially with Frankie, who's his best friend, but he's kind of not very smart." And that whole character, like, I think they should have played Frankie up as a character even more, like his stupidity and just like not really being there. They missed that opportunity. Also, I'm fine with the fact that they kind of dropped the love interest thing, but I think it's weird that they just dropped it. But just saying. I like the portions of the little creatures crawling around the house, and you have to love the one that ends up in the food processor. I love that, and that's when the woman is getting ready. I believe it's Millie's getting ready for like this get together, and the critters they're showing them in different stages, like crawling around the house, and then one gets in the food processor, and the nice sound when it gets whizzed up in the processor, and then she serves. I think it's like a soup or something that it ends up being in, and people are like eating it and like, ugh. But it looks green. Obviously, they're gonna make it look green because that's what you do with alien guts. So I just like that. I thought it was a good touch. The ladies' gathering, getting thrown into chaos by the little creatures, is potentially the best part of the film. Now, I did say that it was very impressive seeing the reveal, like full reveal of the creature, and seeing, the parents get killed and all that stuff. That was great. But the chaos that ensues with all these older women getting together and the babies show up and just start attacking them, I think how hectic that is, the acting in that, and how they chose to make it look with them attacking them was my favorite. Like, I love that scene. That's my favorite scene. It's just so enjoyable. It's so funny. It's so fun. That's my favorite scene right there. Ellen's headless body going through the window. Fun. Very fun. I like that touch. Didn't expect to see that one coming either. Sure, going out the window. Sure, losing her head. But losing her head and going out the window? It's that next level. I like some of the thought that was put into this film. Like, they grabbed ridiculous and said, here we go. We're putting this right in this film. Ridiculous. Let's go. And I like that. When Pete starts to give up, you know it's bad because he's the science guy. He's supposed to be the smartest one there in conjunction with Ellen, but Ellen ends up dead, which is why he basically starts to give up on things, and he's just like, it's all screwed. I can't score with Ellen, so let's just stop thinking, stop trying to get out of this, and just throw ourselves to these creatures, because he literally goes for the door and is just going to like go out there in harm's way. People talk him out of that, obviously, but once as an audience member, once you know that the guy who's supposed to be the smart, cautious one, who's the science guy, once he's mentally out the door, you're concerned. You're concerned for everyone because you're just like, oh no, now we're in trouble. But Charles comes to the rescue because Charles doesn't care about anything, obviously. Potentially a sociopath. I don't know. Charles must own a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook based on how he slaps together that exploding head. Yeah, he knew what he was doing. He was very quick with it. It was a very MacGyver moment in the film, and I appreciate it, but it raises a lot of questions about Charles, let's be honest, including where is his copy of the Anarchist Cookbook at that point, because it was in existence at this point. I believe it was done in the 70s. I actually listened to a podcast about the origin of it, the person who actually wrote it. Very interesting podcast. I forget what it's called, but look for it. I've never seen a more intense scene involving an extension cord in all my life. The part where with the exploding head, he's like trying to get the extension cord. Well, first he's trying to get the cord to the outlet. Then he pulls out the extension cord, gets it there. And he's still just like trying to get it there. Like how much they stretch that scene out. Pretty intense for what you would assume would not be intense. So they achieved something there. I was surprised by that. But it's just funny. It's like I've never experienced an intense extension cord scene in a film before. And now I have. Thank you, Deadly Spawn. Thank you very much. So why is it that creatures never really went after Charles? Was it because he was slow and quiet? That was when I wrote that down is when I was starting to think, okay, maybe the reason he didn't really react to all the blood and his parents being dead and totally mutilated in the beginning of the film was because he was trying to be like really quiet and slow moving so he wouldn't draw the attention of these things because they seem to have no eyes. So I'm assuming that's what's going on, but put it in the comments if you have a solid idea on that or a theory or something like that. We can talk about it. The ending with the parties of people hunting the creatures reminded me a lot of the end of the film, The Night of the Living Dead, obviously. I don't know if it was supposed to be like that, but I don't know if anyone else felt that way. Put it in the comments. I felt that really, really echoed The Night of the Living Dead with all the hunting parties going out after the zombies to do cleanup. So, I mean, I liked it for that reason. I liked that it reminded me of The Night of the Living Dead, because obviously it's a wonderful film, and I like nods like that to older horror films. Actually, a pretty great twist to have the giant creature pop out of the mountainside in the end of the film. Now, it made sense to me then, because earlier on in the film, I was like, when they were showed that shot of like the mountain and the house, I was like, it looks like miniatures. By the way, break real quick for horror hydration. Throat's getting dry, sorry. But yeah, I thought it looked like miniatures. And then it made a whole lot of sense to me, because I'm like, oh, okay, it is, because that's how they shot that scene at the end. They were able to have that giant creature, when you think everything's cleaned up, everything's good, the giant creature just popping out of the mountainside. And it's just that next level of, oh crap, now people are really screwed. They were screwed before, they fixed it, now they're super screwed. How are they going to deal with this one? So I like that twist. It was actually a legitimately good twist, especially for a film that's so bad it's good. Somehow, it's fitting that the end credits roll with a song featuring someone playing hardcore wailing on a flute. Did anyone pick up on that? Like, someone is just going to town on a flute in the final song that plays while the credits roll at the end. And I was digging it. I was like, you know what? You do it. You go. It's like the flute version of Tim Capello, you know? He wails on his sax in The Lost Boys. Whoever this person was wailing on that flute at the end of The Deadly Spawn. And I appreciate that person. I want to know who that was. Anyone know? Put it in the comments. Obviously, the acting is bad. I already talked about that a little bit. The acting is terrible in this film, but it is something that actually enhances your experience with a So Bad It's Good film. The pacing is not that great, but they throw in enough fun practical effects to keep you entertained throughout. So that really kind of bridges the gaps in like downtime. So I appreciate that. I think to a degree they knew what they were doing, I guess. Is that the realization I'm coming to right now? I guess so. I guess there aren't any good-looking transfers of this film, though, because the one on Shudder was awful looking. So that leads me to, someone needs to find a better version of The Deadly Spawn. We need a Blu-ray release of it, unless there already is one, because let me know if there is, because I might need to own this one. It reminds me a little bit of the movie Things, but with way better practical effects and just a better film. It's weird to say that, but a better film. But I mean, Things is like, yeah, you know. Anyway, little bit of the same concept, by the way. So, yeah, obviously I really enjoyed The Deadly Spawn for what it is. It's So Bad It's Good film. So as a straight up film in the entire pantheon of films, out of 5 stars with half stars in play, 1.5 star, which is generous. But as a So Bad It's Good film, 3.5. 3.5. I was between 3.5 and 4. I don't think it's quite at the 4, though. 3.5, though. That's pretty solid, especially for a So Bad It's Good film. So, now, all I need from you is to tell me your opinion on this film. Go ahead and put it in the comments. Did you love this? Did you hate it? Do you actually think it's a good film? Or do you appreciate it as a So Bad It's Good film? Or do you appreciate it both ways? If that's even possible. I don't know. But you can tell me about it. And don't just say, I like it, I don't like it, or I'm in between. Give me a sentence or two, because that's one of the big things about why I created this channel, is to just kind of get a little bit nerdy, have good conversation. And a lot of you out there bringing some awesome conversation to these videos, so I appreciate that. I also appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. That's your best way to repay me. If you want to keep me motivated to keep doing this, just subscribe. It is quick, painless, costs you nothing, and I appreciate it big time. Also hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know whenever I'm putting up new videos, which at this point, I'm doing 4 a week, which I think is a very good amount. putting a lot of work in. But yeah, regardless, I really do thank you for taking your time to watch this particular video. And until next time, keep it brutal.